Hi there, it is Mindful Digitality Webcast again. I am your host, Benjamin Wong, clinical counselor from Vancouver. And it's just been barely 2 weeks since I launched this webcast, and I've gotten my first question. I've gotten, and again, you're absolutely welcome to put comments down below. You're welcome to like my videos. You're welcome to subscribe to my channel, and of course, ask me questions. You can ask me questions, professional ones, even personal ones. Just ask them away. I'll decide how to respond and in what fashion to respond. Okay, but I've gotten my first question here, and this is a question from Simon, who's from Hong Kong. Okay, thank you for asking this question, Simon. Your question was, how exactly did you, in the first place, get into this very interesting line of work? Well, it happened about just over a decade ago, 11 years ago, and three areas of my life sort of converged together in laying the foundation of myself working with people struggling with digital dependencies, video gaming, and so forth. The first area of my life, was my personal experience with video games. There was a stretch of my time in my youth when I was quite a gamer myself, to the extent of being the gaming being problematic. Yes, it was affecting my emotions. It affected my schoolwork. It affected my work ethic. It affected my relationships. It affected my various different facets of life. It wasn't so much the games themselves. I don't blame them. It was the behavior. It was my using the behavior in coping with whatever chaos that were going on in my life. And so I've had first-hand experience dealing with it. The long story short, it just happened that one morning when I woke up, I tallied up the hours that I was gaming vigorously over the previous few months, and that stretch of time was just very chaotic for me. And I thought, well, with that number of hours I gathered, I could have easily completed another undergraduate degree with them. So I thought, well, the heck, it wasn't worth it. I just resolved to not go back into video gaming on a regular basis. That was it. So that was the first piece, my own experience as a gamer. I have first-hand experience, and my word to every concern, every anxious parent out there, that there is hope. Okay, if there's a gamer in your house, who's a teenager, who's a child, there is hope. Okay, they can improve and they can make changes. They can live a productive life when they grow up as an adult. So that was the first piece. The second piece had to do with my observation as and by that time I already had some years of experience in and out of educational settings working with students, and I realized that students, even 12, 15 years ago, they began to go about life very differently compared to when I grew up as a teenager. They began to be a lot more reliant, on digital means in their learning, in their socializing, in their gathering of information, and their reaching out to the wider world. Whereas when I grew up as a digital immigrant, term coined by Mark Prensky, the gaming enthusiast, back in 2001, I believe. Yeah, myself being a digital immigrant, so compared to the digital natives, a digital immigrant like myself, I was fairly resourceful without anything electronic. Right? I was quite capable of planning my day, of planning my future. I was quite capable of organizing my affairs without anything digital, without screens. So I've begun to pay attention to how this newer generation had begun to organize their world. So that was the second piece. The third piece, around the time when I began to have this opportunity to dive into helping people deal with the digital dependencies, I became a parent. My wife and I, my wife Cece and I, we became parents. And in having our first child, Irvin, who's now age 12, uh, when he was a baby, I had some good hard I did some good hard thinking of how exactly would we like to raise this child, or how exactly would we like to raise children. We ended up given us two lovely boys. Curtis, the younger one, he's now 9 years old. And so the question came about: how did we want to raise our kids, given the pervasive electronic environment we were gradually finding ourselves in? And so I began looking into the available research and data. And as it turned out, even back in those days, even back in the mid 2000s, 2005, circa 2005, 2006, there was already ample evidence, predominantly done through researching how children responded to television viewing. Um, an example was Dmitry Christakis, who is based in Seattle, and he's still doing his research in Seattle. He found data supporting the conclusion, which is this: that every child, for them to grow up in health, for them to grow up healthily, emotionally, physically, and mentally, there would need to be three core elements. Three things need to happen on a regular basis for them. The first is for the child to have access to an emotionally stable, available, and caring caregiver. Okay, preferably a parent. Okay, somebody with whom they can talk, with whom they can cuddle, with whom they can touch hands, with whom they can do skin to skin, eye to eye, face to face. Somebody who can engage with the child. Okay, verbally and non-verbally. That's the first core condition. The second core condition for the child to grow in health is ample opportunities for them to use their hands. Okay, for them to use their hands to touch things, to feel textures, to feel temperature, to manipulate things, to play around with things. Which is why playing with blocks is perhaps one of the healthiest activities that any young child, any infant, any toddler can engage in. Okay, so that's the second piece. The third piece is that the child will need to have opportunities of problem solving. Okay, they need to learn to figure some things out every now and then. Now, of the three, television viewing offers none. Okay, television viewing simply achieves none of the three core requirements for healthy development. And come all these technologies of touchscreen technologies or computer technologies, and people take a step back and they go, whoa, look at the child. Aren't they problem solving? They seem like they are problem solving. Well, guess what? Up until today, evidence continues to be very scarce, pointing to the fact that even if we witness a toddler swiping away on their tablet computers, punching away and touching and creating changes or manipulating, they're not exactly using their hands to the fullest of their capabilities, nor are they truly problem solving to the very, very definition of the term problem solving. So there you have them. And that was sufficient research for us to decide that our home was going to be a low-tech environment, tech-free to the extent of being tech-free. We've moved homes a number of times in early childhood of our kids, and movers they remarked that, yeah, I realize your house didn't really have a lot of didn't have too many television sets. Which was odd. And well, that had to do with how CC and I have decided to um, cut down and just maintain a very, very minimal level of electronics, and predominantly for adult use even. So there you have them, the three pieces of my background that converged to form foundation for my work in the last decade or so. Okay, I certainly will be happy to answer more of your questions. Keep them coming. Like my video, subscribe to my channel, put comments, make comments, ask questions. You've been watching the Mindful Digitality Webcast. I am Benjamin Wong, clinical counselor in Vancouver. I'll see you in the next. Take care.